So we are big proponents of Kanye West, or Ye, as he would like to be called. And since the last time we talked about him, which was very recently, Adidas dropped him. He didn't think it would happen. He thought he was invulnerable to it. Now, I personally think it's a net positive for him because he can always release his shoes. The brand is him. The brand is not Adidas. The brand is him. He can find some Chinese sweatshop to produce shoes, just like they produce them for Adidas, and he can sell the shoes. And he just has fewer middlemen. He'll make more money. That's my opinion of it.
Was there some speculation that he actually wanted this to happen?
There was speculation. I'm not so sure I buy that, but yeah, who knows? Because at the end of the day, I think he's going to make more money just cutting out this middleman.
Hmm.
They're the
Okay.
ones that lose. They were hoping, they were praying to God that he would backtrack on his quote unquote anti-Semitic statements so they wouldn't have to drop him. But there was just too much pressure. I guess they felt, well, we've got to drop him. And his contract was running out anyway.
Mhm. I see this as being another example of like the principal agent problem, because the amount of money that Adidas is going to lose for dropping Kanye, it's substantial, right?
About
I don't
200
know
million,
what,
200 million.
yeah, and that's probably a substantial amount of their revenue.
I think like
I'm guessing.
15%, 20%, something like that.
Yeah. So you're basically cutting off like your own arm or
Mhm.
something. And how could a company make such a uneconomic decision, especially when we're headed into hard times or potentially headed into hard times? It just doesn't make any sense,
The
right?
company was
I think.
almost irrelevant in North America before he
Mhm.
partnered with them. He made them cool. I need you to understand something about it, okay? Sneakers, I know you don't buy them or you don't care about them because you're not part of street culture, streetwear. I'm not either, but I do purchase some stuff, some
I have,
overpriced shit. Oh,
yeah, I have fancy sneakers.
oh, you do?
Not not the streetwear, type.
Oh, but you bought them at retail, right?
Sure, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about stuff you got to buy like on the secondary market that hot. They're
Oh,
so
okay. No,
hot.
no, no.
It's got to go on us. You got to get them on a secondary market, right? They're that
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
I'm not in that
Yeah,
market.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You need to understand it. In streetwear terms, Adidas was dead. It was not cool. Nike dominated. Everybody wants Nike stuff, right? Has all the best athletes. Adidas didn't have the best athletes. But when Kanye partnered with it, suddenly I've got to buy fucking Yeezys on StockX at a premium. So they,
Wait, do you think Adidas has better market share outside of the US?
yes, outside of the US, yes.
Okay.
But inside the US, they're pretty irrelevant
Right.
until Kanye partnered with them. Now, suddenly, you're buying a shoe that Adidas paid $5 to produce in China at a sweatshop. They sold it for about $200, which is already a gigantic markup, right? The shoes sell out immediately. Now, collectors have to go on StockX and pay like $300 to $400 for the same shoe. That's what Kanye did for them. Nobody was doing that for Adidas shoes before. They're going to lose all of that. They're going to lose that cachet.
Yeah.
And why?
I think it's
Lots
because
of
of
people in
yeah.
control of finance and their company and public pressure. It just was too much for them.
Yeah, but I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is that they're only able to make this decision because it's sort of like the other people's money thing, right? Like the people making this decision to drop Kanye don't have enough skin in the game, so they don't care that Adidas is going to lose, whatever,
Well, but
200 million.
aren't they executives that answer to the stockholders? Don't they have a fiduciary duty?
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. The whole ownership system is so diluted that it just doesn't even an obviously uneconomical decision like this is able to be made, right?
Interesting. Right. Like if I had
Because
stock in Adidas,
think
I would
about
want to
who
fire these executives, but could I?
exactly. Of course you would. But think about who is going to wind up suffering the
Oh, but you know what the
consequences.
problem is? You know the problem is? It goes back to
Yeah,
something you've talked about many times.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Who actually, it's not me personally that has stock in Adidas that even matters. I have very little stock. You
yeah,
know who owns most of it? BlackRock and Vanguard.
yeah. Or just mutual funds,
Right.
pension
And
pension
so
funds,
and
whatever.
so you do own stock in it, but you don't get voting power. BlackRock gets your voting power. Vanguard gets your voting power. And you know what they subscribe to? They subscribe to ESG, right? So you have these people who run your pension, or if you're a worker in the state of California, California State Pension Fund runs it, right?
Right, right.
California State Pension Fund's huge. It's like a big state, lots of government workers, right? Is
Yeah,
it like the fourth biggest fund out there or something like I don't know what it is, but it's a lot of money, right?
yeah,
And they have their ESG, their own types of ESG, where they have their own priorities and they vote according to those priorities. So they use your money to push their political agenda.
yeah. And ultimately, yeah, my whole point is that ultimately, who pays? It's going to be the little guy, right? It's going to be whatever person's retirement money, their portfolio shrinks by a tiny, tiny bit because Adidas stock is going to go down.
Yeah, but they don't care because they're just caring about ESG.
Yeah.
Yeah. So screw you.
I mean, in this case, not even ESG. It doesn't even have to be necessarily ESG involvement. I'm just saying it's the the incentives are so diluted and they're not kind of operating in the right way that ultimately, even if the stock goes down, who cares? Like the people that pay the price are going to be the actual, retirees, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So it is a problem where the people making decisions are not accountable to the results of their decisions so much.
Yeah.
Unless there's some political, that's the thing. It's political now. It's not financial. And one could argue, if the politics are, you agree with the politics, you probably think that's great. Think about
Right.
all the people who agree with all the ESG protocols. They probably think it's great that Vanguard and BlackRock are wielding their immense financial influence to push these companies towards those directions. They probably think it's awesome. But that's no longer fiduciary responsibility, is it?
Right. I
They're
tried
not
to
they're
read.
not
Yeah.
considering whether or not they make their shareholders money.
So, my perspective could be proven wrong if it turned out that there was, let's say, like a 30% shareholder, in Adidas. In that case, that would just be it's basically activism, right? That shareholder was willing to sacrifice profits because for the
Correct.
for the
Correct.
greater good, in his opinion. Tried to research this a tiny bit, and I wasn't able to find, that Adidas had any large shareholders.
Yeah.
So it's probably the more
But
common case of being,
I'm I'm always rooting for
distributed.
Kanye. I don't even care. I'm always rooting for Kanye. I don't even care. Okay? And I'm not even saying that cuz I can still remember when he said George Bush doesn't care about black people. And I totally disagreed with him. I'm like, what are you talking about? George, he cares about black people. Just because it's like emergency response was slow at Katrina, this means he doesn't care about black people. That's stupid, right? He clearly has bipolar disorder. Sometimes he sounds very lucid because he's on good meds, and sometimes he doesn't because he's off of them. I don't know what's going on with his life. But I'm not one of these people who just wants to dismiss everything he says as, well, he's crazy. That's a popular thing that is said on the left right now. They just want to say, well, he's crazy. He just needs help. If
Well,
you listen to fucking All In, they treat him like he's some kind of retard or some kind
they,
of
they do.
invalid.
Right. They look at him
Like
with like this pity eyes, right? It's like,
right, like he's some kind of he has like a 50 IQ and he just needs to be shepherded. He needs he needs better advice. He needs better guidance. Maybe
I
he's
think
just a
yeah,
he just
he
has
does he
strong
does kind of
opinions that disagree with yours, you know?
he does kind of because he's buying Parlor. I mean, that's what the hell. Uh,
Yeah, but the thing is the way they talk about him, it's demeaning almost. Like this guy has agency. He said
yeah.
what he said. Let's just let's just take what he said at face value as far as what his beliefs are.
Can you explain why people try to excuse this away with bipolar? Like how I looked in
Here's why.
Wikipedia.
Here's why they like him, but they don't like what he says,
Hmm.
and so they want to excuse it as oh mental illness.
I just don't understand why bipolar even explains, if somebody's saying crazy things, like why
Well,
would
I
bipolar
think it
cause that?
does. Well, I mean, you just your personality. You have a personality disorder.
But all bipolar is according to Wikipedia, is basically you have highs and lows. And why would that, in and of itself cause you to say crazy things?
Good
I don't
point. Good
understand.
point. It probably just allows you to say the things that deep down you want to say, but a normal person would just not say. I'm guessing that it just means you have no filter.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's different from the description of what bipolar means, I
Well,
guess.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
That's how they explain it. I'm not explaining it that way. I think that a lot of these things Kanye thinks is just that's just what he thinks.
Like maybe,
I don't think they're all right. We disagreed with stuff he said, but let's
is
hear
it
it.
possible? Is it possible that if you're bipolar, that you're more likely to take certain meds, and it's the meds that actually cause you to say crazy things?
No, I don't think so. I think the meds just sort of sedate you.
Hmm. Yeah, because I can be. I don't know if I'm moody, but it's like
I
I
don't,
can't
yeah,
imagine that
I don't,
making me
I'm not bipolar, so I can't relate, but
right.
I don't doubt that he's been diagnosed as bipolar, so I don't doubt that he has this issue. But at the same time, he's been lucid at times and just expressed opinions, which are inconvenient, which are wrong, which are stupid, whatever you want to say about them, but they are his opinions. And so their eagerness to just dismiss it as well, he has a mental illness. I think that's too convenient. He has opinions that are inconvenient for you that you don't agree with. You just have to confront them. You have to either say that, well, I think he's an anti-Semite. I think he's this. I think he's that. You just have to accept that. Maybe he is those things, in your opinion. It's too convenient for you to just say he's mentally ill. And that's what they do on the All In podcast. So they don't want to say bad things about Kanye. It seems like they either know him or they like him. Who, of course, most people like him. He produced great music. He, he's like a beloved person. It's like how there's a there's a strong segment of the population that never wanted to believe that Michael Jackson did anything. A lot of that had to do with how the great music he produced over his life. It just you just don't
Hmm.
want to believe it, you know? The same thing with Kanye. I'm not saying it's the supposed crimes they commit are totally different in severity, but it's similar. They don't want to say bad things about Kanye because they just love him and they
Mhm.
love the work he produced and they think he's a genius. But at the same time, they can't allow anti-Semitism. God forbid, because too many people who pay the bills, don't like you saying that stuff. And that's that. That's all I think it is.
It's kind of a tangent, but I mean, how dangerous do you think in general, like anti-Semitism is?
It's not dangerous at all. What's going to happen? You think there's going to be another Holocaust? That's what people always say. There's going to be another Holocaust. And what I would ask you is how? How? Every Jew can just go to Israel, correct? They have a standing policy where you can just go to Israel.
Or I
You
mean,
can get
yeah,
citizenship there. You can get everything there. They have a standing
well,
policy where you're welcome there. Can't you just go there?
we can, yeah, we can even broaden the question. So, like, what if people were saying a bunch of anti-Asian stuff? You know, is there a point where it becomes a problem?
Um, it's 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 un it's suboptimal for sure. You don't want people to hate other people based on their race, but you're not in a situation now where Jewish people are so vulnerable and at the mercy of host countries that have large Jewish populations where they can do things to Jewish people because there is a Jewish state where every Jew is welcome. That's the reality of it. And here's the other reality of that Jewish state. Israel is pound for pound the most militarily capable state on earth. I would not want to fight a war with Israel ever. Just look at their track record. They win every single war. Their population is small. They win these wars quickly. They're just better, pound for pound. Now, would they win in a war against the United States? No, of course not. We're just a larger country with more resources. But given the resources they have severely outperformed what you think they would in every recent war. And this is just past 70 years, right? There's something called the 6 day war because they won a war in 6 days. Do you understand that? They won a war in 6 days. How do you do
I,
that? Because you're good at fighting wars.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked this is just, even if Kanye happens to be anti-Semitic, it doesn't bother me that much. Like in
It
my
doesn't.
mind, I'm
Yeah, it
thinking,
doesn't bother
okay,
me. It
yeah,
just. Yeah,
it's just one guy, let's just say. But
it's
then,
one guy,
you
and
know,
he's not going to start a Holocaust.
right. But then there is some point at which it's like, okay, this is
I mean, I
going
will.
too
I will
far.
admit that it's not welcome. It's not optimal, but it's well within what I would say we should protect by free speech principles.
Right, right.
But I'm not trying to put out conspiracy theories out there, but our free speech principles, they seem to get more circumspect when it comes to a certain people, right? That's all I'll say. They seem to be more limited when it comes time to talk about certain people out there. Why? Just ask yourself why. I'm not even saying why it is, but why? I don't know. It's a good question. You can't even talk about it on the Daily Wire. Daily Wire claims to be a free speech platform.